Okay, so one of the subtopics of biochemistry, subtopic B5, focuses on vitamins. It's a really small subtopic, so we're going to start off with it early and just get it out of the way. So vitamins fall under the umbrella term of nutrients. Nutrients are just things that organisms need to consume in order to get all their essential little building block molecules or their energy. So nutrients are necessary compounds and elements, ions that must be consumed by an organism with essential building blocks, energy, etc. Okay. Now, a micronutrient is something that must be consumed in very tiny amounts. So something along the lines of less than 0.005% of body mass. So we're talking micrograms, milligrams of this stuff actually needs to be consumed. And yet, even though they're in such tiny amounts, not having enough can cause major problems. Things that we call deficiency diseases. So even though we need them in small amounts, they're really essential. So the list of micronutrients includes the vitamins, which are all micronutrients. You need them all in small amounts, but also a lot of the minerals like iron, zinc, copper, iodine, and these other ones: manganese, selenium, molybdenum, boron, chromium, and cobalt. You may not have even known that you needed those. You need them in tiny amounts, but they have lots of different roles in your body. They can be coenzymes, meaning that they help your enzymes function properly. They can be used in the structure of certain hormones, like in the case of iodine. So they have lots of different roles. You just need to consume them in tiny amounts. Vitamins, we can pretty much break down into two different major categories. And those categories are water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins. Okay, so for water-soluble vitamins, I remember, if you look at this last line, that vitamins B and C are in your pee. And I know that's silly. It's a little bit gross, but that's how we're going to remember that. So the water-soluble vitamins to remember are vitamins B and vitamin C. They are water-soluble, and therefore it's really hard to consume an excess of them, because when you consume them, they will dissolve into the water-based system that you are, and they'll essentially just get filtered out with urine. So if you consume too much, you'll just kind of pee them out. They are water-soluble. Well, if you look at vitamin C, it's pretty obvious why it's so water-soluble. It has lots of functional groups, mainly a lot of hydroxyl groups, but also it has this ester group right here, right? So it has 4 hydroxyl groups plus this ester group. I guess we should include this carbon to make it the ester group. All of these can form hydrogen bonds with water. So anytime you're explaining why something is water soluble, you have to say it can form hydrogen bonds, but also point out with water. Okay, that's the key. You have to be able to hydrogen bond with water. Say that if you'd like to get the mark. Okay, so that's why vitamin C is water soluble. The B group vitamins, there's a whole bunch of different vitamins that are called B vitamins. They have similarly polar hydrogen bonding capable structures. Vitamin C specifically, some of its functions are that it's a cofactor for a lot of enzymes, so it can help enzymes function properly. Especially, it's important for the synthesis of connective tissue in your body, mainly the protein collagen. And it also functions as an antioxidant, which means that it reacts with things like radicals, free radicals that are produced naturally in the body during respiration, and it prevents them from therefore reacting with other molecules. It can be quite important for your health. A deficiency in vitamin C is known as scurvy or scorbutus, and was associated with things like bloody gums and swollen arms and legs, which were mainly resultant of not properly reforming connective tissue in the body. So the IB syllabus says that you don't need to have the deficiencies memorized anymore, but you used to, so I'm still going to put it here. Vitamin C deficiency is known as scurvy. The fat-soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K. The ones that will be in the data booklet are vitamin A and vitamin D. It's pretty clear to see why they are going to be fat soluble. They are largely hydrocarbon in nature, meaning that they mostly are just made of carbon and hydrogen. So if you look at vitamin A, it's just lots and lots of carbon and hydrogen. It does have one hydroxyl group, but that's not enough. Percentage-wise, it's a very small percent of the molecule that could be attracted to water. Same thing goes for vitamin D. Here's vitamin D. This is its only polar hydroxyl group. The rest of it is completely nonpolar. Vitamin D is actually very similar in structure to cholesterol, and if you get enough sunlight, you can actually convert your cholesterol into vitamin D, and that's one of the few vitamins, the only vitamin that we can make ourselves. The other ones are all essential, meaning that we need to consume them in our foods. The fat-soluble vitamins are much more slowly absorbed because they slowly absorb into fatty tissue, and they're also much less easily gotten rid of. And so it's possible to actually have side effects if you overdo it on vitamin A or vitamin D. So it's important to consume them in the proper amounts. Vitamin A, its main function is that it's involved in vision, especially vision that's with low light intensity, like night vision. And so deficiency in vitamin A can lead to night blindness or another condition known as xerophthalmia, which has to do with the inability to produce tears. And vitamin D is very important in aiding the uptake of calcium ions into cells. And so it's really important for having strong bones and teeth. And a condition known as rickets happens in children when they don't have enough vitamin D, and so they have sort of soft bones, and their bones get malformed as a result of their low calcium levels and vitamin D levels when they're young. As a general rule, associate the fact that vitamins and cooking don't go that well together. Vitamins are these complex molecules, and they have lots of functional groups on them, like OHs and C to C double bonds, which are fairly reactive. And if you heat them, you're going to encourage reactions to take place. And so the water-soluble vitamins especially are prone to degradation or reaction and changing when you heat them. But the fat-soluble ones can also be changed when you heat them as well. And so it's generally best to consume food when it's fresh and uncooked if you want to get the highest amount of vitamins. And the longer you cook something, it's probably going to hurt and lower the amount of vitamins in it to a certain extent. The other aspect of the vitamin subtopic focuses on malnutrition. Malnutrition is a sort of broad term that encompasses lots of different health conditions that stem from the absence of one or more essential nutrients in the diet. So it's connected to this concept of deficiency diseases, that you can actually get disease by a lack of something rather than getting a disease from having bacteria or a virus inside of you. You can also get a disease if your diet lacks something that is essential. And so in more modern times, we also, to add to the concept of malnutrition, we have the concept really of obesity, and that malnutrition can also stem from the overconsumption of really highly processed, energy-rich, but nutrient-poor foods. So there's lots of potential causes for malnutrition and also some solutions for those causes. And so that's this part of the subtopic, is being aware of those two things. So potential causes include a lack of distribution of resources or a lack of access to foods or fresh foods. Also, the overprocessing of foods, which tends to lower their nutrient content. You can have soils that have gotten depleted over time, or the use of too much chemicals like herbicides in agriculture, which can deplete nutrients from soils or deplete nutrients from the plants themselves. And there's also the lack of understanding or lack of education about what makes a good diet, or just the lack of really personal willpower to have a proper diet when you don't have much access to the right information or the right foods. So some of the solutions associated with those causes, you can fortify foods with micronutrients. So things like vitamin A and vitamin D can be put into things that are fatty. So vitamin A has been put into margarine a lot of the time, and vitamin D is often put into milk. And that's a way to get more vitamin A and vitamin D into the diets of human beings. So you just kind of have to add them into the foods. B vitamins tend to show up in things like whole grains. And so if you want to add more of them, they're water soluble, but they tend to get added to things like cereals, which are fairly commonly consumed in our countries. And they contain they can contain whole grains as well. That's one way to get more micronutrients into the food chain of human beings. Vitamin supplements also can work. Depleted soils and use of chemicals. You can genetically modify foods to improve their nutrient content, although genetically modified foods in different cultures are thought of as more or less controversial. But the fact remains that you can modify foods to make them more nutritious with genetic modification. Whether or not you agree with that is up to you. And then finally, improving access to education and information about balanced diets and nutrient content in food can benefit people. So especially those people maybe who are making poor choices with regards to overconsumption of highly processed foods. If you can educate them and really truly make them understand what those decisions are doing to their health, you can benefit their nutrition. So those are all fairly intuitive concepts of causes and solutions to malnutrition, and you should be comfortable discussing a couple of them as part of this vitamin subtopic. For the HL, there is an additional topic about the stereochemistry, certain isomers of vitamin A. But for SL, that is the entire vitamin concept, especially no information about vitamin C, A, and D, their functions, and why they are water soluble versus fat soluble. Know the concepts of micronutrients and some specific essential minerals, and know about malnutrition causes and solutions.